Hello, and welcome to Get Sleepy, where we listen, we relax, and we get sleepy. As always, I'm your host, Thomas. I want to sincerely thank you for being here and giving us your support, but also for giving yourself the love and care you deserve by coming to this gentle place to rest whenever you listen. Tonight's story was eloquently written by our very own Shady Grove. We have a special treat in store for you in celebration of Lunar New Year. Across Asia and around the world, people are celebrating the transition from one year to the next, and these years are associated with animals. In China, for example, we're entering the year of the rabbit, and in Vietnam, the year of the cat is just beginning. In this story, we'll honor both of these clever little animals. So, make yourself as comfortable as can be. And once you're settled in a good spot, just enjoy the peace and stillness of this moment. Take a nice deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. One more time, breathing in fully and smoothly back out. You're here in this place of sanctuary and rest, so enjoy a sense of complete ease. There is nothing you need to do at this time. No thought or action you need to concern yourself with. Just let the flow of your breath guide you towards sleep. Much like a gentle stream flowing over rocks and stones and gradually smoothing their surfaces bit by bit. Allow each gentle exhale of breath to relax your body and soften your mind. Feel the soothing force of your breath grounding you peacefully in this moment. You can allow yourself to drift off whenever you're ready. So now, let's begin tonight's story in a beautiful and distant forest. The rabbit hopped sleepily through the forest. It leapt and bounded over logs and around the willow trees whose delicate green leaves shimmered in the dappled sunlight. With every gentle bounce on its hind legs, the rabbit travelled deeper into these woods it knew so well. Every now and then, the rabbit turned a little this way or that to avoid the shining mounds of golden coins piled high on the leaf-scattered ground. For this was a special forest, the Moon Forest, a magical and auspicious place that few but the rabbit ever saw. The breeze whispered through the willow trees, catching the edges of hundreds of red paper envelopes hanging from the branches. They danced on the air currents like silent wind chimes. Sometimes 2 of the envelopes would move together, their smooth paper making the softest shushing sound that only the rabbit could hear. After hopping up on a particularly nice log, the rabbit stopped to rest. Soon, its little nose began to twitch as it picked up the delicious scent of orange blossoms. With a single leap, the rabbit was back on the forest floor, heading towards the enticing fragrance. Soon, the rabbit found itself in the most wonderful orange grove, surrounded by tall and sturdy trees, dripping with giant, beautiful oranges. They decorated the trees like gemstones, hanging among the waxy, deep green leaves and fragrant white blossoms. How the rabbit loved the orange grove. It delighted in hopping beneath the enormous trees, lounging in the circles of shade they provided, with the sweet aroma filling the air. And so, it was here that the rabbit decided to burrow down for a midday nap. The sun was high in the sky, and the grove was warm and inviting. And soon, the rabbit felt its eyes beginning to close as it drifted off into a peaceful slumber. On the other side of the forest, far beyond the orange grove, the cat was padding quietly through the trees. It scampered over logs and around the curving trunks of the willows, whose drooping branches hung down tantalizingly over the cat's head. With every silent footstep, the cat travelled deeper into these woods it knew so well. Every now and then, the cat shimmied a little to one side or the other to avoid the shining mounds of golden coins piled high on the leaf-scattered ground. For this was a special forest, the Moon Forest, a magical and auspicious place that few but the cat ever saw. The breeze whispered through the willow trees, catching the edges of hundreds of red paper envelopes hanging from the branches. They danced on the air currents like silent wind chimes. Sometimes 2 of the envelopes would move together, their smooth paper making the softest shushing sound that only the cat could hear. After climbing up on a rough yet stable log, the cat paused for a moment to rest. soon its delicate whiskers began to twitch as it picked up the delicious scent of tangerine blossoms. With an elegant jump, the cat was back on the forest floor, loping off towards the enticing fragrance. Soon, the cat found itself in the most wonderful tangerine grove, surrounded by tall and graceful trees, dripping with little, beautiful tangerines. They decorated the trees like gemstones, hanging among the waxy, green leaves and fragrant white blossoms. How the cat loved the tangerine grove. It delighted in slinking beneath the trees, lounging in the circles of shade they provided, with the sweet aroma filling the air. And so, it was here that the cat decided to settle down for a midday nap. The sun was high in the sky, and the grove was warm and inviting. And soon, the cat felt its eyes beginning to close as it drifted off into a peaceful slumber. Just as the sun was colouring the edges of the orange trees a deep gold, the rabbit slowly opened its eyes. It peeked out of its burrow and admired the rich sunset hues adorning the grove. For a moment, the rabbit sat there quietly, enjoying the sweet scent of the orange blossoms, the tranquil scene, and the delicious feeling of waking up after a long, lazy nap. But then, a new fragrance arrived with a gentle breeze coming from deeper in the forest. It was the luscious, fruity scent of peaches mixed with the tang of apricots. The rabbit knew these smells, of course, but had never encountered them in the forest before. With its nose twitching, the rabbit hopped up, took a final look at its beloved orange grove, and bounded off into the trees. On the other side of the forest, far beyond the orange grove, the cat napped in an oval of shade beneath a tall, slender tangerine tree. Just as the sun was colouring the edges of the trees a deep gold, the cat slowly opened one of its eyes. It blinked, then opened the other eye, and admired the rich sunset hues adorning the grove. For a moment, the cat lay there quietly, enjoying the sweet scent of the tangerine blossoms, the tranquil scene, and the delicious feeling of waking up after a long, lazy nap. But then, a new fragrance arrived with a gentle breeze coming from deeper in the forest. It was the luscious, fruity scent of peaches mixed with the tang of apricots. The cat knew these smells, of course, but had never encountered them in the forest before. With its whiskers twitching, the cat stood up and stretched, took a final look at its beloved tangerine grove, and scampered off into the trees. The rabbit hopped and bounded through the willow trees to find where the wonderful scent was coming from. It bounced over twigs and stones and along the mossy bank of the narrow stream that wound its way through the forest. A few large fish saw the rabbit hopping near the side of the stream. Playfully, they flashed their tails and swam alongside the rabbit for as long as they could. The rabbit admired the way the stream burbled over the pebbles in some places and flowed so smoothly in others between its mossy banks. And the rabbit liked the way the red paper envelopes hanging in the trees were reflected in the glassy water like rubies on crystal. The rabbit hopped and bounced and bounded until it reached the most beautiful place it had ever seen. The cat trotted through the willow trees to find where the wonderful scent was coming from. It slinked over twigs and stones and padded softly along the mossy bank of the narrow stream that wound its way through the forest. A few large fish saw the cat loping near the side of the stream. They were careful to stay out of sight, hidden behind the larger rocks where the roots of the willows reached into the water. The cat liked the way the stream burbled over pebbles in some places and flowed so smoothly in others between its mossy banks. And the cat found it intriguing to watch the way the red paper envelopes hanging in the trees were reflected in the glassy water like bright red fish. Every so often, it had the urge to bat its paw at one of the red reflections, though it knew it would only get its fur wet. The cat ran and jumped and crept until it reached the most beautiful place it had ever seen. In the middle of the moon forest, where the willow trees are hung with red paper lanterns that glow like fireflies in the tallest branches, the rabbit and the cat paused at the edge of a lush green clearing. Piles of shiny golden coins were scattered across the forest floor, glowing with the rich red and orange hues of the fading sun. Red paper envelopes fluttered in the breeze like bunches of red berries on the green willow branches, and delicate paper decorations with gold script whispered against each other whenever a gentle gust of wind blew through the moon forest. around the clearing were platters and bowls piled high with the richest, ripest peaches, orange, red, and yellow, like the sun. Decorative vases filled with glorious pink peach blossoms and sunny yellow apricot blossoms filled the spaces in between. Blossoms covered the ground like snow, and the air was filled with the sweetest scents the rabbit and the cat had ever smelled. How they loved the clearing. The rabbit hopped joyfully in a circle, unsure whether to go right or left. Both ways held promises of peaches. The cat paused thoughtfully, considering its options. It would wait for the right moment to decide, right or left. But then, as both the rabbit and the cat delighted in their newfound clearing, their eyes happened to land on one another. The rabbit stopped mid-hop. The cat flicked its tail back and forth. Who was this stranger in the middle of the forest, they wondered. The outgoing cat was the first to make a move. It stepped forward into the clearing, and its smooth voice asked who the rabbit was and what it was doing in the cat forest. The peaceful rabbit hopped forward carefully. Always diplomatic, the rabbit told the cat that it hadn't realized it was a cat forest. It had always assumed it was a rabbit forest, with a few fish who lived in the streams. No, it's definitely a cat forest, the cat told the rabbit. But then, brimming with curiosity, the cat added, "Does your stream have fish? I never see any in mine." "Oh yes," said the rabbit. "There are always fish playing in the stream here." And so the rabbit invited the cat over to its side of the forest. Cautiously, the cat padded across the clearing. When it reached the other side, the rabbit welcomed it warmly. The cat gave the rabbit a sidelong glance. It wasn't used to spending time with anyone, let alone a rabbit. But soon, the rabbit was talking cheerfully about the best logs and burrows to be found in the rabbit forest, and about the willow trees with their curving trunks. And before the cat knew it, they had reached the stream. The fish, whose stream ran through the whole moon forest, saw the cat coming. They liked the rabbit well enough. It was playful and gentle. But the cat liked to bat at the water, so the fish stayed behind the rocks near the willow roots. "How odd," said the rabbit. "There are always fish in my stream." "Ah well," said the cat. "I suppose you have to be in the right place at the right time." Then the rabbit had an idea. It would take the cat to the orange grove to see its favourite napping place. Together, the rabbit and the cat hopped and bounded and slinked and loped their way from the stream to the grove. As they got closer, the cat noticed that while the scent of the grove was similar, it wasn't quite the same as the tangerine grove on its side of the forest. And when they arrived, the cat saw that wasn't the only difference. The trees here were enormous and covered with huge, round orange fruit. While they had many similarities, they were definitely not the same as the tangerines back home. And yet, there was something pleasant about the scent of these oranges. Something tantalizing about the way they hung among the deep green leaves and white blossoms. The cat still thought the tangerine grove was superior, of course. But this wasn't all bad. As they explored the orange grove, the sun sank lower in the sky, and the cat decided it was time to show the rabbit the other side of the forest. The rabbit agreed happily. It was curious to see where the cat spent its days. And so, together, the rabbit and the cat jumped and hopped and leapt and ran through the trees, under the whispering envelopes, through the air scented with orange blossoms, until they reached the clearing of peaches. Without hesitation, the cat trotted across the clearing to the other side. The rabbit followed, glancing up into the trees as it scampered past. Though the paper decorations were similar, the rabbit found it couldn't read the golden writing to be found on the cat's side of the forest. "What do your decorations say?" the rabbit asked. "They are wishes for a good new year," the cat explained. "That's the same as on the other side," the rabbit said, "but the characters are different." It's interesting how similar, and yet how different our two sides of the forest are, the cat thought to itself. Soon, the pair reached the cat's beloved tangerine grove. The rabbit knew they were drawing near because of the wonderfully sweet fragrance surrounding them in the air. When they entered the grove, the cat padded over to one particular tree. This was the best place to nap, the cat explained. The trees here were tall. but their trunks were thinner than those in the orange grove, the rabbit observed. And these trees were covered with comparatively tiny, round orange fruit. While they had many similarities, they were definitely not the same as the oranges back home. And yet, there was something pleasant about the scent of these tangerines. Something tantalizing about the way they hung among the green leaves and white blossoms. It's interesting how different, and yet how similar our two sides of the forest are, the rabbit thought to itself. By now, the sun was fading fast. The sky was resplendent in lavender, plum, and deep dark blue. Together, the cat and the rabbit ran, hopped, and bounded back to the lush clearing in the middle of the forest. As the night fell, the red paper lanterns hanging from the branches glowed brightly, like flames flickering in the treetops. The sky was dark, save for diamond-like stars scattered across it. The cat curled up on its side of the forest, tucked away in the crook of a tree branch, and the rabbit was snug and warm in a burrow on its side of the forest. Each one gazed up at the sky, as they always did at bedtime. But then they also glanced over at the other side of the forest before falling into a deep slumber. When they awoke the next morning, both the rabbit and the cat got up as they did every day. But now that they knew the other lived so nearby, neither was entirely content to go about their day like usual. By mid-afternoon, the rabbit and the cat were exploring the cat's stream more carefully, in search of the elusive fish. And by early evening, they practiced hopping from stone to stone on the rabbit side of the forest. That night, they each went to bed on their own sides of the forest once again, with a last glance at their new neighbour, before they fell into a deep sleep. For many days and nights, it continued like this, with the cat and the rabbit exploring each other's sides of the forest. They learned that while many things were different about their homes, there were far more similarities between them. Each night, a bit more of the moon appeared overhead. First, it was just a sliver. Then it looked like a tangerine slice. Then half of an orange, until it finally hung like a bright golden peach high in the sky above. And on the night of the full moon, with the red lanterns twinkling in the treetops above, the rabbit and the cat understood. There was no cat forest and no rabbit forest. There was only the moon forest, and it was home to them both. So they found the most comfortable place in the clearing, with the best view of the night sky, and together they watched the stars shining, the lanterns twinkling, and the moon shimmering. And with the scent of peaches lingering about them, and the sound of the red paper envelopes shushing in the breeze, the rabbit and the cat fell into a deep and peaceful slumber in the moon forest.